Good morning. Sorry, there was a glitch, so we did not start on time. We'll take 5 minutes and then we'll start. We'll start. Give me 1 second. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. There's a tech issue. So it took us 15 minutes to go live. But we are now live. You're talking about Shreyank in Paris, not in India. In India, Cartesian grid plan is radial circles. Town center concept. Actually, the fact of the matter is you have to study with Nitin Singhania because you will have to go through a book which can very quickly give you certain type of what we call as a revision process. Akul, I have no idea about that. Yes, Sejal, there was an issue. That is why we started late a little bit. We have not taught anything. Nothing has been taught till this point. I'll tell you when to study Nitin Singhania. Let me finish today's main class. Both can happen, Kishan. 2023, it was a mix. Previously, it used to be separate. Now we have to see if it's a pattern or not. No, Kamlesh. Okay. I'll tell you, Ilma and the people who are saying paintings, what to write. I have to give you a table here. Don't worry, and we'll do it. Okay. Yesterday we finished paintings. And we have to cover each and every. See, the question most probably is going to be made out of Mughals because that is the most dense area. Other areas may be relevant for your films preparation, but here good morning, good morning, good morning. Whilst you all join in, we can do this. Good morning. You have Babar. Humayun. Thereafter, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. It's not that difficult if you look at it like this, and if you write all these points, you get an answer. So Babar's contribution was a family tree made by Bayezid. No real trend or way. Thereafter, way of painting. Thereafter, Humayun is first artillery in India. Mir Sayyid Ali Abdussamad. Thereafter, princes of the house of Timur. Starts painting tradition. Akbar, you will have institutionalization of institutionalization of paintings. You have karkhanas, and studios with royal painters and craftsmen, low caste Hindu painters. He is known for narrative paintings and the concept of illustrated manuscripts. Thereafter, first artillery in India. Thereafter, Tuti Nama and Hamza Nama are two important works. Thereafter, in Jahangir, it becomes naturalist, move the emphasis away from narrative painting to portrait and individual images. European influence starts European influence starts to appear hourglass on globe 3Dness, depth, and fine brushwork. Borders are decorated. Shahjahan adds gold plating to borders, takes Jahangir tradition forward, growing European influence. Aurangzeb stopped commissioning of painters, European style fully embraced. Painters moved to Rajput dynasty. Now, you can write this much, right? Tutinama, Hamzanama are two important works. If you can write this much, your answer is done. If they tell you the contribution of different Mughal emperors to painting tradition, this is it. This is it. Animal plants start from Jahangir, naturalism. Adds gold plating to borders. Kukri book is not Babar. That is Delhi Sultanate. Niyamatnama. Are we clear? Car moved the emphasis away from narrative painting to portrait and individual images. Hourglass, Jahangir on globe, 3Dness, fine brushwork, decorate, borders are decorated, naturalist, institutionalization of painting, Karkhana, low caste Hindu painters, narrative painting. First atelier in India. Moved the emphasis away from narrative painting to portraits and individual images. Either there is an issue. What's the point of writing this when you will ask me every line only? And I'll narrate only. That saves my lifetime only. Quite a lot of time. Can we start sculpture if this is clear? Next module. Okay. So, yesterday was about painting. I've consolidated that to you. See, don't think of this like you will be asked. They can be asked implied questions. There can be different type of questions which can come in the examination. Don't start to literally ratify everything. You need to understand things. Answer writing, if you're struggling in art and culture, the way to do about it is to have to write something. When you start to write, you will be in a better position to to be able to, for example, articulate yourself. It's not just art and culture, it's generally practice. If you will only practice one subject, for example, only polity and all, you will start to write polity type answers. But polity is not what you are going to use or something like that. You have to learn to write the historical context in the introduction, then learn to write, for example, the basic points in the concept itself, which is the body, and then conclude by talking about significance and impact. Try to do it. If you run away from it, every subject wants a different type of answer. Geography wants a different type of answer. History wants a different type of answer. Polity wants a different type of answer. Don't keep on doing what you know, or you want to know, or want to practice. Have to go out your comfort zone so that you can do it better. European painting means that the influences become properly established by Aurangzeb. Now, European paintings question mark. If you're asking me what it is, then you can watch yesterday's video. That is not an issue. Okay. So we have covered the big two, which is architecture, architecture and painting. Now we cover the third biggest portion, which is relevant for the examination vis-a-vis mains examination. But before I do that, we all are on the same page, no, with no issues with regard to the first two modules. There are smaller topics which I have left because I don't want to break the flow. Because if I start to go to Malwa, this, that, it starts to break the main flow. So you're looking, you can see I'm moving in a very specific direction. I'm moving in that same timeline we've covered. When will you tell what to read out of the book? First, at least cover something with me. Ironically, we've not even covered 2 chapters out of Nitin Singhania. And if I tell you that read Nitin Singhania, you will say, no, sir, I don't want to read Nitin Singhania. So tell me, what should I tell you? What to read out of the book? The book should be only there for revision. So be patient. If you've been patient till this point, can be patient a little bit more. Or Ritika, you are new to class and you're asking me these questions. There are two things which explains this. So you have if you love Nitin Singhania, then this should not be a problem only. And if you hate Nitin Singhania, then what is the hurry to go to Nitin Singhania? I'll tell you to read the first chapter. Read the first chapter. 91 pages it is. And if it had made sense itself, then would be no issue altogether. So wait up with the books. The PPT is giving you a certain amount of information. First, digest that. Then talk about books. Now, we are working in a specific timeline, which is that if you remember, I gave you a timeline in the beginning of art and culture. So the story either moved from prehistory, 2 million BC, and I'm stopping if you're seeing that 1707 at Aurangzeb. Even in Moda, Raja Ravi Verma, and you do basically don't have to become a art specialist to go and then we start to analyze Abhinavanath Tagore's paintings. That is what is not needed. I'm doing things which need to be done. And then when we will have covered everything which we have to know, then these smaller topics can be done later. So again, the question is sit and first cover what needs to be covered. Okay. Now, you can't skip the book. That is not the way it will happen. I will tell you what to do with that book. Don't worry. Now, when we come to sculpture, the third biggest area. After sculpture, dance is the last, classical dance is the last major area from which they can make a mains question from the first 4 modules. And then we cover, for example, in every module, one heavy topic. For example, 6 schools of philosophy. And we are now moving away from these big topics to smaller topics. Now, in sculpture, our story starts at industrial civilization. And if you remember, I have not touched beads, artisanal crafts, what we call as copper, bronze items in that sense. From IVC, we will move to a very important phase, which is called the Mauryan and post-Mauryan. Postmodern. In between here, we found a lot of pottery, which I have a specific module for itself. Here, I need to discuss with you, with all fairness and with a lot of importance, schools of art, which is basically the core of this idea, which is Amravati, Mathura, and Gandhara. This is what basically comes. And thereafter, we will move towards Pallava, and last is going to be Chola bronze art. In a way, that will complete this basic timeline again, because then sculpture we don't find across medieval India. The reason being what? The reason being what? Why do we find no sculpture in and around medieval? Buddhism, Islam does not allow human representation. Sculpture automatically is going to become very rare. It's going to become very, very rare. So your basic timeline is this. The most scoring area or from where questions are made is this one or this one. Other than that, everything is just a filler. Now, now, story starts with Harappan civilization. Now, previously, we've already understood, just to revisit, salient features of the architecture of IVC. And now we are back. Now I'm starting the discussion. None of you have missed nothing. We were late by 15 minutes because of a technical glitch. And now we are back to where we are. If needed, I'll make up that 15 minutes somewhere in the later period, not an issue. Now, Harappan civilization, or IVC as we call it, there are three very interesting things. The first question, which automatically a lot of you are asking me, is what is sculpture? Sculpture is anywhere we give a certain figure, certain image, a tangible form, which is, for example, you create small puppets, small amulets. It could be anything. Sculpture can take the form of any tangible expression of images or of humans or of animals. It is again a man-made expression of art. Now, in IVC, what we see is there are 3 to 4 very interesting features. What is called this is called diversity. There is diversity of what we call as material or raw material. There is either diversity of what we call today as raw material, then craft specialization, or there is a diversity of techniques. What it means is that here, bronze, you have copper, you have ceatite, you have terracotta. Different types of material are used. Ceatite and terracotta being the most common. Thereafter, craft specialization means beads, seals, pottery. We have different types of what we call as artisanal goods. And when we talk about techniques, we see, for example, lost wax technique or sir pardu method. You have beading, you have drilling, you have a lot of different things. You here have jewelry, you have ornaments, multiple. And this is where the UPSC can ask you a question. UPSC can ask you a question that what type of diverse material or crafts or techniques were used. A very standard type of question. Type of question. Wheeled pottery is something which is already there during the Neolithic period. Neolithic period already there. Now we also have to cover it in this way only, which is material, technique, and craft specialization. So when we talk about Harappan craft, the first most distinguishing feature, the first most distinguishing feature is the concept of copper metal being used as copper or bronze, which is an alloy of copper, and the method which till today remains relevant and is considered to be the epitome of wax based molding of bronze statues or copper statues is called the Sir Pardue method or the lost wax technique. We have found gold and silver also. Let's add it here also. Gold and silver have also be found. And the Harappans were very good in doing one thing, which is they were now making a lot of different figurines, which gave us a lot of idea about the day-to-day culture. So we have, for example, copper pottery, and we have, for example, copper items and toys. Can anybody tell me how is this copper? How do we know it is copper and it is not bronze? The green color is a giveaway because copper oxide is green color, and that is why this green color is telling us it is copper, greenish color. Now, as you can see, there are multiple techniques being used, but the epitome of all discussion around Harappan civilization has to be about what is called as the dancing girl, the bronze dancing girl. Now, this brings to our own notice and then our understanding that what is the method they were using. And the method was called the lost wax technique. In itself, it is one of the most interesting because it will start in IBC. We'll find it in 2600 BC, but it will be taken forward till 1000 C, and even the Cholas are going to use the same exact method with the same ideas, a little bit of more finesse and specialization. And this is the beauty of Indian history, that you can see that from 2600 BC, this technique somehow survived the test of time and was every time used across different spaces. Now the question being, then how do you make a lost wax technique based concept? Now again, you don't need to know this, but to give you a basic understanding, see, the idea is very simple and straightforward. That, for example, I need this object. I need this object. I want the shape of this object. I need the shape of the object. And what I will do is I will make a wax mold of it. In a sense, I'll make a wax mold, and then I will put it into clay. I'll put it into clay. So I have made an impression in clay, then I filled it up with wax to create this mold. Now what will happen is I will then heat this whole concept. What happens to wax when it is heated? What happens to wax when it is heated? It melts. So once the wax will be melted, I will take it out. So what I will left with this basic mold, which looks like this. This is what is left. That's what's called lost wax technique. Lose the wax, and then you pour the copper or bronze, and then what you will get is that once you pour the copper, it will fill up this space, and then I will break this mold, and in the end what will be left is this object which has been made out of copper or bronze. So the name lost wax techniques come from the idea of what we today call as copper or bronze. No, Durga Puja is a totally different type of technique. That is a freehand concept itself. The fact of the matter is, you make a mold, you heat it, you remove it, you add the metal you want, and then you get the mold. So it's called lost wax technique casting because you lose the wax. So lost wax casting. How do they make hollow sculptures in this technique? They don't make hollow sculpture. Who's told you that they made hollow sculptures? There are no hollow sculptures. So they make heavy, and mostly in this hollow sculptures are very uncommon. Very uncommon. It will mostly be a solid piece which is being used. So the first technique which we see, which has its own very interesting history, is a lost wax technique. And the first metal or first material which we see is called the copper and bronze. Now, if I move away from this, how pottery made by this technique? Pottery is not made by this technique. Pottery is made by spinning a wheel on which you keep clay. This is the irony. You don't know Indian history, Indian beautiful tradition of pottery. Pottery is then clay is put. The kuhar is going to then make the mold. When he makes the mold, then it is put in the kiln to heat. Copper pot. Copper pot you can make easily. Copper pot you can make easily. What is the issue? You will make the mold in that such a way. You will make a mold in which you will create a certain hollow. That's why, as I told you, very rarely you will find this type of technique using hollow. They will put something like this and they fill this up with wax. See, the point is everything can be done, but you don't have to do it. If they made it, very good. If they were not able to make it, doesn't matter. But as I said, it is such a method that through which you can hollow objects can be made. Internally hollow is difficult. Meaning, I thought you were saying that this is internally hollowed. No, this type of things can be made easily, but is immaterial to your understanding because you don't. Nobody is going to ask you to even explain to you the concept of lost wax technique. I'm just explaining to you so that you have a basic reference. Now, moving away from the first type of representation, we now move towards the other two very important material which was used. One is called terracotta. And the second one would be ceatite. No, candle molds, copper. It's much. See, I will encourage you, if you write lost wax technique, and if you will write it on YouTube, it will come automatically. Please don't compare it with making candles and all. Much, much, much more difficult than what we see. So you can just Google it, watch a video for once which is purposeful, and it will help you. Now these two are the two most common, other than, or rather the most common material used. Ceatite is the name of a stone which is called soapstone. Soapstone or ceatite is the first in a way proper sculpture which we start to see. Terracotta is the most common. Terracotta is nothing but burnt clay. So if you take the clay, if you mold it and you put it into a kiln, basically how pottery is made, this is more handmade in that sense. These are two most common. And we have found terracotta images of bullock carts, ships, plow, female figures, mother goddess. We also have the bearded male with coiled hair. Along with that, we've also found ceatite images of what is called as the bearded priest. So this would be an example of a terracotta figure. On the other hand, this is the bearded priest, as we call it, bearded priest. We don't know if he's a priest or not, but this is basically steatite. This is steatite. This is not that hard to carve, but not too soft to break. And terracotta figures are even more. Even more. Terracotta was so common that we have toys, we have figures, and we have games. And I think we have all played these two games in our childhood. Wherein Dogra and Lost Wax are not same. If they would be called the same thing only. So Dokra, it's not Dogra, it's Dokra casting. I know. Don't worry about it. So we have the dice. We have the game in which they put a small terracotta ball, which has to go through the maze itself. These figures are where these things are very, very important for us because they are a window into the day-to-day life of the Harappans. Nowadays, pencil box have it, Harappans. And they tell us how they spent their lives. And this is the first major concept where we get a lot of figures. Terracotta figures are thousands and thousands of terracotta figures. And in that sense, this is like the plastic of their period. If today the civilization ends, all you will find after 5,000, 6,000 years is going to be plastic. So because plastic survives that period also and gives you an idea that everything is plastic, from this to that bottle, everything. Same with this terracotta was the most ubiquitous, most common, what we call as concept, and over and above that, material used. I'm telling you these things because they can ask you the concept of what are the materials, what are the techniques, and how are they relevant. How are they relevant? And the relevance is that they give us day-to-day life. But the most important concept is that they are the close to 5,000-year-old figures of people who remained. And with Harappan script not there, we know that this is the only way we understand Harappans. Now, the next most common thing which we found of ceatite is something called seals. Very polished, square or rectangular. We've also found, for example, a cylindrical type of ceatite bead also, or seal also. Script remains undeciphered. and thereafter, we have multiple seals which exist. Now, one thing is very clear, that they are not currency. No form of currency or money. But what they seem to be, is most probably stamping or stamps of markings on merchandise. Basically, the commodities which they were exporting, they used to stamp it with these seals. Now, this is basically a way of identification and has nothing to do with what we call as the concept of currency. Now, here comes the standard concept, which is called the unicorn seal. Now, one thing very clearly, very clearly, there's nothing called a unicorn. This is European imagination, but there's nothing called a unicorn. John Marshall and Alexander Cunningham did not understand, but it is not a unicorn. It's called a unicorn because apparently there's one horn, so it is going to be a unicorn. What was the purpose of amulets in the day? Even that Atharvaveda has not been written. Who told you that it's an amulet? Who told you it's an amulet? Where does the Atharvaveda come in? Last Veda you're talking about. What connection are you making? This is Seatite. What is the connection you're trying to make here? Which is this animal? I'll tell you. First Kishan needs to be solved. What are you trying to say, Kishan? Atharvaveda amulet. Who is asking you? See, while she figures that out, see. Wait. It's not a hippopotamus, obviously. See, it says unicorn. It says unicorn. They believe that it is one horn. But tell me one thing. These are seals. Tell me one thing. How many hands do I have? How many hands do I have? This. Look at me. No. Obviously, I know I have two hands. What can you see here? But does that mean I have one? When I make something 3D into 2D, it becomes a unicorn. They're trying to show two here, but they've superimposed it. But they have displayed four legs. So that is the artistic choice. They don't want to see. If you want to believe in unicorns, you believe in unicorns. And this cannot be a unicorn because unicorns are one-horned horse. One-horned horse. But I don't think this is a horse. And if you look at it, why are you discounting this as not being the other horn? And they're trying to give 3Dness. Either way, if it says unicorn, You call it unicorn seal because John Marshall called it, but very clearly, this is nothing like a unique. There's nothing called a unicorn. It's like saying that, for example, it's either a bull, which is the most common. Humpless bull was the most common. Then, see, Shreyank, what are you trying to say? That ear nahi hai, so what should I do? You want to say it's a unicorn. Sure, you are talking like John Marshall, but it's like you are looking for something which doesn't exist. That animal is a imagination of children in America and in Europe. So then, it's a bull or a cow, doesn't matter. I'm just trying to tell you it's an optical illusion. I don't care. I don't care. But the basic point is unicorn seal, well, they say there's a chance that they are not trying to make one horn, but two horns superimposed over each other, or bull can be without humps. Yes, that is the evolutionary process. Humpless bull is the most common. Humpless bull is the most common. So the simple point is humps were developed because of agriculture. That's an evolutionary concept itself. The simple point is that this is a seal made out of ceatite for marking objects, and nobody cares what is represented. So in the examination, if they ask you what is the purpose of a seal, you will be able to understand it and mark that they are not currency. That you will be able to do at least. Yes, then more than enough. Now, the other crafts which we see which come out of, for example, IVC is beads. Very common, very, very, very common at this point of time. Wherein you have different types of seals, cylindrical, and different types of material. So these beads were made out of different material. They knew how to drill into them. So they knew how to drill into a cylindrical object without breaking it. And very simply, the drilling technique, the piercing technique was such that they could go to any levels to do it. Any levels to do it. And if we go for example, jewelry was worn by men and women both. We found that in the burials which we see. But again, if you see that gold casting was quite mature, and quite what we call as in a way sophisticated, because they have the ability to mix beads and gold, and different forms of gold based jewelry was there. We found hordes and hordes of gold jewelry in Mohenjo-daro, in Lothal. We found a whole jeweler's house in which we've seen that the alloy, or what we call as alloy of silver and copper and gold and silver is also there, and we've seen that how they were casting it. So we can see that material diversity wise, Harappans are very, very, very diverse, very diverse. So if you go by their pottery, it is equally interesting that they made multiple types of pottery, uh, wherein we have bigger, smaller, horizontal, vertically big pottery. But what is more interesting is that the patterns which were made on the pottery have a distinct non-human presence, which is that they was gold not discovered during, no, gold was known since Neolithic period itself. Now, what I mean to say is that somehow they never represented people on pottery. They're very clear about that. What they rather represent more is the concept of the concept of the animal and plants, or flora and fauna, is something which was represented quite a lot, which adds to the fact that they are basically naturalists. The simple point which you need to understand here is, before we go to schools of art, I'll give you a breather here, not an issue. What you need to understand is very simple, straightforward. In Harappa, we don't have to do any thesis or don't have to go into too much detail of anything. I told you this concept. What I've tried to do is I've tried to demonstrate it to you. Material, craft, and technique diversity. So in the examination, if they ask you that what type of diverse material, craft, or techniques were used by the Harappans, so I think you can now talk about bronze, copper, ceatite, and gold, silver, terracotta as being the materials being used. Here you can give examples. You can then talk about how craft specialization and different forms of specializations were there, when they were creating a whole plethora of different ideas. And you are also capable enough of talking about drilling, beading, ceatite making, and lost wax technique. The question is going to be most probably generic. They can't ask you a very specific question. This is an area where we start again. And as I told you, Indus Valley civilization, Vedic period is textual. We have pottery, which we'll discuss. But other than that, sculpture is very uncommon. Sculpture will become very common and starts to survive only after the Maurya, post-Maurya period. That is the most important discussion and the most heaviest discussion. And I don't want to dare break the flow. So if Harappa is clear, we take a break here and then we move forward. Terracotta is just clay. That's it. This is a very important section. This is the core area. This is where the questions are made out of. Yes? Got it. Perfect. So what I've established in the past 45 minutes with you is the fact that if I don't give a break here, it will go on for 2 hours. And then you will most probably faint, which makes no sense. Pottery, NBPW, OCP, I know. I've been doing history for a very long time. Don't worry about that. So I have a pottery section. It needs only one slide. Nitin Singhania has made it such a big thing to discuss pottery. You only need to know 3 things about it, which I will discuss with it. What historical context would be given to question of historical context? Why not? Have I not told you that the Harappan civilization is a Bronze Age civilization which existed in the northwestern frontier, northwestern sector of the Indian subcontinent, was known as a Bronze Age civilization because of the availability of bronze, was preceded by, and historical context, anything you want to write. You talk about the Harappans, 2 lines. Very mature civilization. I've given you that whole timeline to write multiple points. Right? Okay. So we come back at 7:15 and we can take the story forward. I wasn't connecting Atharvaveda. I was saying Atharvaveda in Sushesh Tantra Mantra Jadu Tone, also amulet should be later Vedic. I have no idea, Kishan. That I understand, but that is something very specific to Atharvaveda. They consider popular beliefs Tantra Mantra, but has nothing to do with IVC, as it is Vedic, has nothing to do with IVC. Okay. 20, already 10, 7:20. Okay. See you. Welcome back. Ceatite is soapstone, not soft stone. The name of that of this standard name of ceatite is soapstone. It's not piercing. Pinching method of terracotta is to make certain indentations. Piercing technique is to make piercing. What to do with the word unicorn? You go with it. If the examiner calls it a unicorn seal, you say it. Okay. Okay. Now, coming from IVC, Vedic, we find pottery. Mauryas, we already saw pillars, etc. By the late Mauryan and post Mauryan period, what we see is the concept of school of art. They will flourish with the Indo-Greeks, Shungas, Sakas, Kushanas, and Satavahanas, and will become a new epitome in the chapter of schools of art or art generally. Now, here we have to discuss three very important schools. One is called Gandhara, named after the region which they come from, Gandhara art. Then Mathura art. And last but not the least, you have Amravati School of Art. Now, simple, straightforward. Gandhara is northwestern sector of Indian subcontinent. Mathura would be northern India. Northern India. Amravati would be Deccan and Peninsula. First to develop, first to become popular. This is the last to develop as a school. Now, if is the northwestern sector, which are the dynasties which would come under the Gandhara school of art? Or which area, which dynasty would have controlled Gandhara school of art? Not Shakas. Very good. Rashkuta, Rajputs, anything you want to write. I'm saying post Maurya. Indo-Greeks and Kushanas are the ones who actually control or were the ones who are patronizing it. And here it will be the Shunga and the Kushana. Basically, this is the linkage between the two. Later linkage. And this would be the Satavahanas. At the same point of time, this has a distinct Indo-Greek or Greco-Roman influence. This will develop initially as an indigenous school, but will get impacted by Gandhara due to Kushana connection or consolidation. There are two phases here. Phase 1, phase 2. Indigenous and Gandhara plus Mathura. And this will be fully indigenous. Now there is last thing. Images are mainly Mahayanic Buddhist. All types of images. Jain, Buddhist, Hinduistic, secular. Ashoka also installed Dhamma in Gandhara. Sure. But they will develop only after Mauryan period. Hinayanic Buddhism. This is the first major standard differentiation which will help you in writing a better introduction in that sense. Now we have to understand each of them in their own capacity. Anybody has any issue with what I have given here? Basic idea about the schools. Or should I show you what are the phases? Shunga came earlier than Kushana. How did Gandhara school came earlier? Shunga and Indo-Greeks are contemporaries to each other. So that is the period in which one is controlled by Shunga, the other one is controlled by Indo-Greeks. Later, both will go under Kushanas. Distinct Indo-Greek and Greco-Roman influence. Are we clear? Yes or no? Can I talk about now the features? Okay. Now, Gandhara, 1st century BC, 4th century CE. Mahayanic Buddhism, very strong old Greco-Roman, what we call as Greek school of art influence. Indo-Greek, we'll find it in Takshila, Peshawar, Belgram, and Bamiyan Buddha, which was destroyed by the Taliban. And Buddha, Bodhisattva's main idea. One very distinct feature about Gandhara is bluish gray, black sandstone and stucco. Stucco is nothing but plaster over the stone. Now, when you look at a Gandhara, what we call as image, sculpture, there are multiple things which will very automatically stand out. These are all Greco-Roman influences and elements in Gandhara. First is halo. As you can see, halo. This again is trying to show divinity, god-like attributes. Thereafter, you have the second most important feature, curly hair, or what we call as wavy hair. Then there are the third, forehead lines. Then half closed eyes. Thereafter, if you look at his expression, stoic or expressionless face. Thereafter, we have elongated ears. And last is draping or clothes. The work which you see here, this is stucco. Bluish gray sandstone is used, and stucco is used to make the basic elements or the detailing in that sense. If I go to another image, this is called the fasting meditative Buddha. One distinct thing would be the level of detail on the sculpture. But again is indicative of everything. What we call halo, wavy hair, expressionless, half closed eyes, elongated ears, forehead lines, and draping. If I go further and if you look at Buddha's two images back to back, you will see this and this. This is a very Greek way of wearing clothes, and this is proper jewelry, which is Greco-Roman. But again, if you see, all the elements are present here. wavy hair, elongated ears, stoic face, forehead lines, half closed eyes, and draping. So the draping still is there. This is it's a bronze structure which was developed. Halo, uh, wavy, or what we call as curly hair, half closed eyes, elongated ears, draping, all elements again there. So if you look at it, there is consistency in representation, which is very realistic, very natural. Spiritualism is very, very low because they don't try to show divinity, they don't try to show a lot of subsidiary objects or subsidiary figures in that regard. And halo, wavy hair, half closed eyes, earlobes, forehead lines, ornamentation, and drape all are considered the overt Greco-Roman art influence on Mahayanic Gandhara school. Are we clear about these elements? Will you be able to identify them or rather write them in the examination? I'll give you a table in the end, so don't worry. 7 points of importance. Yes? Okay. Now, if I go to Mathura, you can see further halo, this. Now, this is again the way of showing this type of jewelry is very drape means this. Clothes, draping means clothes. This is called draping. Whatever question can be asked, the concept of compare and contrast. What is the difference between what are the features? There's a mains question which has come from this area straight, exact. What are the Greco-Roman influences on Gandhara school? Simple, straightforward question. Okay. Now we go to Mathura. Before we see this, I want to show you these two images. In Mathura, there are two phases. Phase 1 is indigenous elements, and phase 2 is Gandhara influence. So if you can see, one, thereafter, two, thereafter, three, four. Now these four elements, if you see, are specific to Gandhara along with the color of the sandstone. What I mean by that? This is called Abhay Mudra. Abhay Mudra means Ashirvad Mudra. Bare chested, clothing different. You have smiling with expression. smiling with expression, non curly hair, and red white spotted red sandstone. But if I go beyond it, I will start to see the other side of the story. I will start to see the other side of the story. And the other side of the story is 1, 2, 2, thereafter 3, thereafter 4. So you can see there are 3 elements which have crept into the Gandhara school or into the Mathura school. You have elongated ear, phase 2. Thereafter halo, then clothing pattern and curly hair. And in some cases, we have also seen half closed eyes also. We've seen half closed eyes also. So now see these 2 images show you how there is a mix and match which develops within Gandhara. You have subsidiary images and figures, which is not something from the second phase but the first phase itself. 4, 5 subsidiary images which is specific to them. You can also have a reference to other figures, Apsaras, Yaksha, Yakshi. The fact of the matter is that this shows you how Kushanas brought in multiple influences from the Indo-Greek sector, and they developed a very distinct form of what we today call as concept. Yellow color is phase 1. Subsidiary images were always there from phase 1 itself. Now, if you look at it, this shows you again a example of tolerance and of what we call as intermixing. Mathura school develops with its own very unique elements, but thereafter, when the Kushanas capture both Indo-Greeks and Shungas, these 2 images are not neither phase 1 neither phase 2. They are a mix of phase 1, phase 2, later period, meaning they were developing after phase 2 only. So we have no pure images of phase 1, but we have pure images of phase 2 in that sense. So Mathura, I hope that you're understanding. I'll make a box and I'll show you that phase 1, phase 2. But I think this is making sense. I guess you're able to at least see what I'm trying to show you. Points of both phases in the same color. Yes, yellow color would be the phase 1. Green color is going to be phase 2. Is this making sense? Material is same. This will always remain the same. Okay. We also have images of rulers. What could be the reason for curly hair? Curly hair is very common in Greco-Roman. Greeks had curly hair. That is the element which they are adding. Images of rulers, and they provide us with information about rulers' clothing at this point of time. This is Kanishka. We know it because there's an inscription here. And this is Huvishka. Huvishka is the brother of Kanishka. Again, there's an inscription somewhere here, written here. Now, these are called headless because obviously over a period of time, they will basically lose a lot of things. But what we see is that they were wearing boots, they were wearing coats, and leather coats were common. This we never knew, that the footwear was boots. This in a way gives a little bit of insight to us, in a way, of multiple aesthetics or fashion based ideas. We would have never known that the Kushanas wore this type of understanding or this type of clothing if we did not have these images. Now, when we talk about the Mathura School of Art, it's the first one to develop in first. It's basically going to develop in first century BCE itself, but it will become famous by first century CE. Began indigenous, later increased Greco-Roman influences under Kushana rule. We have white spotted red sandstone. The images of Buddha were first made, and thereafter we have Hindustic images, we have Jain images. Inner beauty, calm and composed, smiling Buddha is there. We also have images of Huvishka and Kanishka. And we know that they were wearing long coats, trousers, and big boots because of these images. Now, we do Amravati, and then I give you a table to consolidate everything. Amravati School of Art is that one which is Hinayanic. And because it is Hinayanic Buddhism, what is going to be the most important feature? What is going to be the most important feature? Symbols. Very good. Symbols of Buddha. This is the Dharma Chakra Paravartan, or the Dharma Chakra. But because now no Buddha means that subsidiary images are well made. It's not the wheel of time, it's the wheel of dharma. Stop doing that. Time has no concept at this point of time as a wheel. Subsidiary images are well made. You have a sense of motion. You have what are called very elongated and slender, means very thin. And you can see that their expressions are well made. Expressions are well detailed. In this school, we have the Satvanas and then a small feudatory called the Ishwaku, who actually took it forward. Krishna Godavari region, Two very important centers, Amravati and Nagarjunakonda. Very naturalistic human type animal and uh, what we call as flora fauna depicted. Sense of movement, energy in the sculpture. As you can see, it seems like that they're doing something. This is the scene of Maya giving birth to Buddha. Can you tell me where is Buddha? Where is Buddha? Yes, very good. This elephant is a depiction of Buddha. Dharma Chakra Parivartan, when it is a Buddhist compound, why is it named Ashok Chakra? Because Dharma Chakra Parivartan or Dharma Chakra was made very common, very standard under Ashoka. So it's called Ashokan Chakra. Okay, elephant is a very important symbol of Buddha. Elephant is a very important what we call as a symbol of Buddha. Amravati located in Maharashtra or Andhra Pradesh. There is no Maharashtra, there is no Andhra Pradesh at this point of time. Amravati sector was all throughout this whole area, which is bordering Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. Don't look for modern day Amravati. Now, as I told you, faces are oval. Animals such as the what we call as crocodiles are even shown with very naturalistic depiction. And there's an emphasis on narration because they try to narrate a story. Why elephant? Because in the Jatak stories, Buddha's intellect and memory is seen as an elephant. So it's because of the Jatak stories. More or less, elephant, beat the snake, beat the lion, all are representations of Buddha only. We have Jatakas such as the Sibi, the Nagari, and the Chandakta Jataka represented in Amravati. And Buddha is only represented by symbols that we already know. Now let's do one thing. Let's discuss Gupta and Sarnath and then we'll make one big table for this. Now, this post-Mauryan got consolidated after this into the Gupta school of art, which basically has taken up the different elements from Mathura and Amravati both. Gandhara will become independent of itself. And we'll have more religious art. But now this Gupta school of art will become more and more Hinduistic. So all these elements will be used in the what we call as in the temple architecture and sculpture. So temple building will become very, very common, and throughout Sachi, Bharut, Amravati, Mathura will start to find these images. But Gupta will take all of these together forward, and that is why you would know. And I think you can. What is that Amravati influence on temple architecture? What is the Amravati influence on temple architecture? You would know when you go to temples. Are there sculptures which narrate you a story? That narrative element comes from Amravati, where you have multiple scenes shown on pillars and walls. So that is the way the you see traditions converge. Sarnath school develops within the Amravati, within the Gupta period, and is known for its very standard cream colored sandstone. And what is that? That the Sarnath school keeps the Buddha or Bodhisattva or Buddhist art alive while temple building was happening. So the figures will become more and more bigger and bigger, and there will be more facial expressions, there will be more contemplation. But the fact was that Sarnath was a dying school within Gupta. Because now temple building will become so common that Sarnath school will just keep that basic Mathura school alive. Now, in the post-Gupta period, these ideas did percolate and they did go till the southern sector. And from Mahabalipuram to Ellora to Elephanta, we see that the ideas of sculpture and asceticism is reaching. But the problem is nobody was ever able to reach the level under which the Gandhara, Mathura, and Amravati used to operate. And that you can understand by looking at Pallavan art. Pallavan sculpture art had a very distinct Buddhist influence. But what they will do is, if you will look at the descent of Ganga or Arjuna's penance and Mahabalipuram, you will see multiple issues which they will automatically. So from Gandhara, Mathura and Amravati go forward. And once Sarnath and Gupta is there, Gupta becomes more temple oriented. Pallavas pick up the concept of sculpture. But you tell me, what is the issue in this? This is called Arjuna's penance or the descent of Ganga. What is the issue in this? They have now not chosen a rock, but a whole rock face. The first issue is cluttering, is literal cluttering. Too many figures are being shown. Second, the issue is of scale. That the elephant and the temple and different elements, certain people are too big, certain people are too small. So Arjuna's penance, if you will actually look at it, the problem is that they're very good in sculpting, but they're cluttering. They're cluttering it. There's an issue of scale, depth, and we don't know which place to look at. You know that you have to see here, but there are too many things to be depicted here. So you can see that not always things going forward, things become better. What I'm trying to show you is the non-linearity of sculpture. What Amravati or Gandhara and Mathura were producing, are they producing the same type of thing? Would we call it a progression or a regression? We'll call it a regression. Because they are taking this thing forward, but they are not understanding that it was never about depicting scenes like this. Either you keep it very simple, straightforward, but if you are going to do it on a whole rock face, it is going to be like this only. But we believe that the highest point of sculpture reached under the Vakatakas, and with the fact that the Vakatakas, Ajanta, and thereafter when we see under Krishnavan, Rashtrakutas, a whole temple made out of one rock, that is a merit of our sculptors. So while they can cut mountains, they are not understanding that narrative art cannot be cluttery, cannot have too many elements. So rather than single point perspective, multiple points are being shown. And that is what it makes it problematic. Now, just to close the loop, and then we can revise Gandhara and Amravati and the last, is that the zenith of sculptural traditions in India reaches the zenith under Cholas. Chola sculpture or Chola bronze casting, which was ironically based on lost wax technique only, till today is the most smuggled, most valuable form of architecture, form of sculpture available across the world. And we have Nataraja image, Shiv Bhik Santana, Shiv Vantar, Bodhisattva Maitreyi, and even Karikal Amyar. For example, from Hinduistic to Bodhisattva means Buddhism to Allavar and Nayanar tradition, the Nataraja image is considered the highest point of lost wax technique, because now they were able to make images in which they can create gaps. Imagine the level of work it would have taken for the sculptor to make the wax model of this. They're now making, it was always 3D. It's not 3D. Previously, it was only one image. Now they're making a whole image out of multiple things. And that is why under the Chola Queen Sembian Mahadevi, what we see is that Chola bronze casting goes on step further altogether. And the highest point, it is believed, is that you have Shiv iconography in Thanjavur. Kings and queens were kept inside the temple in the Namaskara Mudra as bronze sculptures. The fact that in the Vijayanagara period, we know how Krishna Dev Raya looks like, how his two wives, Tirulamba and Chinna Devi, look like, is because in the Tirupati, what we call as Lord Venkateshwara temple, you have Krishna Dev Raya and his two wives as bronze sculptures there. So in a way, we have come full circle because we started with lost wax. We went one whole circle and went to stone. Then we are back to lost wax. Chola sculpture in that regard till today is considered the most sought after and most important. Their most important contribution would be in lost wax bronze casting. Now, this finishes this theme and we have to do certain previous year questions. I'll make the most important here a very important table for consolidation. And I'll add from Gandhara, I made this Gandhara, Mathura, Amravati. I'll add the other two also, other three also. And we can consolidate, do the questions and move to the next theme. Can we do that? Yes? See, sculpture, what Nitin Singhania has done a blunder is that it's a very small area. But what is done is it is added into architecture only. So what happens is it becomes too much to manage. It does not you are not able to understand what is he trying to do. He's trying to do architecture also, he's trying to do sculpture also. And that is why when you actually remove it, when you actually remove each other from the one, you will realize that the sculpture part is very easy. So let me make a very important two tables I will make, and that will be enough for consolidating this area. What can come in the examination? You don't have to draw in the examination. You don't have all this time. Not a school level examination. Have to be make very, very, very sure that you don't do these smaller mistakes. Not a school level exam. Now, I'm consolidating your sculpture for you. Thereafter, we can simply move to the next theme after doing some 10 previous year questions. It looks like too much to remember. Did you say that for articles of the Constitution? Did you say that for example, the rivers, dams, the national parks? Did you say that for that also? Same exact message? Seems like too much to remember. No, sir. Then how is that random standard logical facts are seeming to be very, very hard? What is the difference between here and there? What is the difference? The difference is called interest. Interest. Once you take interest in something, ironically, remembering your own culture becomes very hard to remember and very heavy. That is the irony of teaching art and culture. That I have to say to you, please remember it. Can't you remember? This is what is India. This is what is India. But koi baat nahi. Okay. Now here I will not add this. I'll not add these points. I'll rather add the points which are more relevant to their evolution. Now, Gandhara, northwestern sector. This is northern sector. This is peninsular sector. Gandhara. You have bluish gray sandstone and you have stucco, distinct Greco-Roman influences. Here, halo, elongated ears, forehead lines, halo, elongated ears, forehead lines, wavy hair, half closed eyes, stoic face, draping and jewelry. Let me say ornamentation. Better one. Stucco is the plaster of Paris applied. Stoic means to have no expression. Now, Mathura, Hinduistic, Jain, Buddhist, and political images. But in comparison to each other, phase 1, phase 2. Indigenous development, Abhay Mudra, subsidiary images. You have smiling or expression, open eyes, bare chested. And please, in the examination, don't use that masculine, muscular Buddha. Don't do that. Not expected from a UPSC aspirant. We've written in the Nitin Sikhania, masculine, muscular Buddha. Don't do that. Okay. Non-wavy hair. Now, here this is red sandstone, white spotted red sandstone. Which chapter? I think is the first chapter only. Now, what in phase 2? Andhara influences come in. Wavy hair, half closed eyes, elongated ears, drapes or ornamentation, and halo. Anybody, any issue here? Gandhara Mathura? Gandhara Mathura? No. Peninsular. Amravati, you have Hinayanic. We've marked that. 1 second. No, we haven't. So why are you saying that? Elongated halo, half closed curly. Nirbhay, don't make things up. Hinayanic Buddhism. Narrative art. And symbols of Buddha. Green sandstone, whitish green. Thereafter, narrative art, symbols of Buddha, Hinayanic Buddhism. You also have sense of movement and details in the subsidiary figures. Thereafter, naturalism and the elements are realistic, has no foreign influence on it. Now, if you make this type of a table, either 2, either 3, your work is done with regards to a certain type of add this information and you will get a comparative understanding. You'll get a comparative understanding. Symbols likha narrative art, symbols of Buddha. Already third point, read it. Okay. Now we move to here you have Gupta, within Gupta Sarnath, then Pallava, and then Chola. Gupta takes elements from Amravati and Mathura, temple building and construction, boosts the sculpture making, narrative art on walls and pillars, and bigger and more elaborate structures. Sarnath is a sub-school within Gupta, known for its very distinct cream-colored sandstone, and also Buddhist tradition kept alive. They move towards rock cut sculptures, and Mahabalipuram cluttering, scale, and narrative issues. Chola. Bring back the concept of lost wax technique, known for their temple construction and bronze images. Chola casting of bronze, known throughout world. Mian Mahadevi gave patronage kings as on statues inside temples. With this, I hope that your sculpture is done. This is all the information you need to know about these phases. IBC, Post Maurya, Gupta, Pallava, Chola. Right? Yes or no? If yes, we take a break here. We come back. We do a little bit of questions, and then we move to the next model. Lapis lazuli is a precious metal, a precious gemstone. Okay, I was too speedy. Acha. So what should I have done? Meaning that we should have let's watch this sculpture. देखो देखो. If I go slow, I'm too slow. If I go, if I'm actually sticking to what you really need to know, I can actually show you. I can actually show you a lot of images. I can give you a lot of information. But this topic does not deserve more than this information. More than enough. More than enough. The fact is, if you can remember these points, you're already doing a favor to the whole nation. So don't worry about that. Okay. You want to be here. Right. So we come back at 8:30 and you don't have to make Buddha in the exam. Don't try to do that. We'll come back at 8:30 and we'll do previous year questions. So I'll see you. No issues, Anjali, no issues. Okay. Uh, First question. Be ready to answer. Some Buddhist rock cut caves are called chaityas, while others are called viharas. What is the difference between the two? Vihara is a place of worship, chaitya is a dwelling place of monks. Chaitya is a place of worship, while vihara is a dwelling place of monks. Chaitya is a stupa at the far end of the cave, while vihara is the whole axial to it. There is no material difference between the two. Read it quote closely. I am giving you the poll. Come on, read it and answer it. Yes, Megha. Perfect. 75% totally correct. 11% confused. 13% are overthinking. See, Chaitya is worship. Vihara is dwelling place means residential. Correct. This is the opposite written. Incorrect. This is nothing. Chaitya is not a stupa. It is not the end of the cave. And Vihara has nothing to do with the hall axial to it. This is again incorrect, incorrect, incorrect. If you are answering D, you should remember that if that was no material difference between the two, why would the examiner ask you this question? What was the point of that? I mean, can we have both can exist together, both can be connected to each other, both cannot be connected to each other. There's no rule and regulation with regards to that. Okay, with reference to the history of Indian rock cut architecture, consider the following. The caves at Badami are the oldest surviving rock cut caves in India. The Barabar rock cut caves were originally made for the Ajiviks by Emperor Chandragupta Maurya. At Ellora, caves were made from different faiths. Come on, use your understanding. I have discussed multiple times about caves. We've done it 2 times in a painting different, in architecture different. I told you one basic Venn diagram, you can solve everything. The discussion. 39, 33, 17, 10. 33, 2 and 3 only. Acha. Anshu, what you're thinking are medieval previous year questions or art and culture questions. Don't worry about previous year questions. Alora has different faiths. Totally correct statement. So we have 3 options with it. We have 1 eliminated. Now, Barabar rock cut caves were given by Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka, and Dasharath. But even if that is not the case, Badami caves are the oldest caves in India. The answer to that question is given here. So the Barabaran Nagarjuni Hill complex is the oldest, not Ajanta. I told you Ajanta is the oldest Buddhist. Barabaran Nagarjuni Hill complex is the oldest. So this is incorrect because the ruler is different. This is incorrect because it should be Barabaran Nagarjuni. The only three only. Just a simple thing you need to remember. Can anybody tell me what is the issue with Chandragupta Maurya giving something to Ajiviks? If only Ashoka written, it's okay. Good, very good. Chandragupta Maurya is a Jain. So why would a Jain king give something to the Ajiviks? So there are multiple incorrect statements here. So if you look at it, you have any knowledge you would have used, you would have got it correctly. Ancient, medieval, art and culture, anything. Okay. Consider the following historical places: Ajanta, Lepakshi, Sachi Stupa. Which of the above places is or are known for mural paintings? Come on. If you're not able to answer this question, there are two issues which I will point out to you. 61, 26, 7, 6. Very good. Obviously, Sachi Stupa cannot have a mural. Stupa, when I showed you, was there any form of painting on it? Yesterday, Lepakshi and Ajanta. Ajanta, I showed you three images out of it. Vajrapani, Manjushri, and the Jatak. Lepakshi, absence of primary colors blue. Now, do you see, are these questions very specific? Or are they just based on basic idea of the story? Why do I do certain thematics this way? Because if you remember mural discussion only, nowhere did I discuss any stupa. So you will be, if you remember the modules, their structure, you will automatically realize that everywhere I am trying to give you a certain hint that this period does not have this period does not have this. I've started in three different places in three different modules. Architecture, I started in IVC, then I started in the prehistoric period, then again started in IVC. So thematics matter and the sequence matters. Okay. Which one of the following statement is correct? Ajanta caves lies in the gorge of Voghera river. Sachi Stupa lies in the gorge of Chambal river. Pandavleni caves or Nasik caves in the gorge of Narmada river. Amravati Stupa lies in the gorge of Godavari river. Again, a very easy question if you remember any discussion we did in class. Easiest possible, but sure. There are two ways to approach this question. We will discuss it. This type question is asked in UPSC. These are previous year questions. This is 2021. 2023 questions, Nirbhay, you can't do because you've not done those modules. So obviously 54, 16, 12, 17. Now, if you've answered A and C, I would still understand. B and D ones I'm more concerned about. Now, stupa, what was the purpose of stupa other than pilgrimage? Other than pilgrimage, what is the purpose of stupa? Propaganda or propagate Buddhism? Now, if you had to propagate something, would you take that thing and put it into a riverbed or in the gorge of a riverbed? Would you do that? You will keep it on major trade routes, plain areas where they can see. Have you ever seen a hoarding of something on the highway 5 kilometers away from the highway? This is just being distracting. This is called deception. They're trying to deceive. If you understand the purpose, now Ajanta is Voghera or Voghora, jo whatever what you want to call it. This is exactly what I showed you, the horseshoe gorge of Voghera river. Option B is correct. No, option B is incorrect. Option A is correct. Pandavleni caves are in Nasik. Nasik is very close to Narmada river. This is called a question of, it's called historical geography question. Or historical geography question. Either your history is strong or your geography is strong. If both are weak, then you will become a little bit problematic. But if you remember, I categorically show you images in Maharashtra of Pandavleni is nothing but the name of Nasik caves. Again, written in the paper. Okay. Now, if you don't get this correct, then there's a problem. Who among the following Mughal emperors shifted emphasis from illustrated manuscripts to album and individual portraits? One second. Whole is stuck. One second. I'm sending it to you. Did something come in front of you? I don't know. It's not showing. Now do it. Now do it. Now do it. Rahul, can you tell me the logic of answering that question? Why have you chosen that option? Zero 25 75 0. I have no idea. There's some issue. It's showing me a timer here, so I'm waiting for it to figure it out. 25% people have still answered B. 80-20. So it's only 10 people who've done it. Okay. So some people are saying this is 25%, this is 75%. Yes. 73% answered this. Okay, very good. So these 25 people are still sleeping in your. Are you on your couch? In the comforter? What is the issue? The Mughal emperor who shifted emphasis from manuscript to portrait. And you're answering Akbar. Can't get easier question than this. 2019 it has come. What is the point of showing you pictures if you can't differentiate between Akbar and Jahangir? कोई बात नहीं. With reference to Indian history, who among the following is a future Buddha, yet to come and save the world? Again, here you either know one basic fact or you know that it should be in front of you now. This last question. One more question. Janvi, true. Correct, Pega. 60% totally correct. It is Bodhisattva Maitreyi. Ironically, Avalokeshwar, Lokeshwar, Padampani, same person. Avalokeshwar main name, Lokeshwar in Theravada, Bodhisattva Padampani in Ajanta paintings. Again, easy if you have an understanding of ancient and medieval along with art and culture. The last question. If not more than 85% people are not going to get this correct, then we will stop here only because it makes no sense. Laughing Buddha is also called Maitreyi. The original name is Maitreyi. I hope now you will understand the importance of the painting module and also of the module architecture, painting, cave and all. We've covered only 3 modules right now, 3 big modules. No, neither Puneet. Come on. भाई बताओ क्या किया जाए इनका फॉर दिस 28%. Either you are sleeping 24 hours has not happened. Jaipur was the Ganesh picture. Bundi was the Govardhan picture. Kangra, I have not shown you anything only. Now, I don't know what is the conclusion you come to, but I hope that you understand the questions are not difficult. They're not asking extraordinary difficult question. Very straightforward questions they're asking. Only Anshu has got all 80 out of 80. Maybe it's a glitch. I have no idea. Have I done 8 questions or 7 questions? 7. So she's answered that glitch one also. Anshu, not taking anything away from you. Anshu, Kritika, Sachin, Janvi, Shreyans, Abhijit, Rupali. 1 second. Yeah, Rupali, then Shreyank, Megha, Kishan, Joe, Chiranjeevi, Devsmita. I don't know which name to pronounce. Sayyad, I'll call. Amy, Chetan, Pooja, Yash, Pragya, Naveen, and Rakshit. Okay. Got. As I told you, it only shows first 21. Fastest finger first. Okay. Now, first tell me what is the conclusion. Doing previous year questions gives no satisfaction to no one. What is the conclusion after doing these questions? Some of them in the past 3 years itself. The questions are straightforward. The questions are easy. They are based on basic understanding. Now, now we enter a new zone. Now, here the biggest topic is dances, which I will obviously not start half an hour before the class ends. And we have two small topics, puppetry and festivals. Now, you don't have to get caught up in cave numbers and all. Don't have to get caught up in that. You saw that there's no question that you now. Once they've asked that cave number 26, the most known Bodhisattva Padampani, that's a very known thing. Other than that, they're not asking cave numbers. Here, this is now going to be our basic way of moving forward. Today we have festival dance puppetry. Obviously, we don't do dances today because that is the biggest chunk, the last major mains area. Then we go into handicraft, music, and theater. In music, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, we'll be listening to music in class so that you can develop a certain understanding of certain words for because music can come in the examination as a mains question. And also you would have to, if you can develop a certain taste for one of them, it may be a good hobby for your examination, for your DAF paper or DAF entry, because the music I'm going to make you listen to is going to be the one which is going to be basically the old classical one. So if you can, that is one thing we do. Wherever it will be possible, I will bring in the element of certain visual or audio element so that you can develop a certain memory for it. It should have been done by you, but you will rather watch someone do something else on Instagram and Facebook rather than actually watching Indian culture. So I will rather try to bring in that element as much as possible wherever it is possible. So what I'm going to do right now is, out of these three, the only smallest topic is festivals, and one topic which students are literally ready to die over. So the simple point is what I will do is I will start festivals, and there are two aspects to festivals: one a mains orientation and the other a prelims orientation. Tomorrow we'll do dance, puppetry, and theater. Dance is a big chunk. Dance is a big chunk because you need to know the elements of the dance, you need to know the story of the dance. You need to know also the fact that what is the origin of the dance. This is what we have to cover tomorrow. First thing tomorrow, heavy topic, we will do this only. We'll try to understand dance. And thereafter, once we're done with dance, we'll move to, this was in the, you would have seen this was in the news quite recently because of Randeep Hooda. It becomes extremely important. And thereafter, the Manipuri dance itself and the Manipuri iconic dress and skirt. Thereafter, we'll go towards the puppetry section. Puppetry will have certain understanding of puppetry. A very important question of conservation of culture is going to come through, and then we will cover most probably theater. I'll pick up one small topic, but before that, I have to discuss with you festivals. Can I discuss festivals? Festival is influenced by geography or about history. I will discuss that. Okay, first things first. Please don't learn all festivals from Nitin Singhania. First things first. Because there's no end to it. Every region has a lot of different festivals which are specific to them. You just have to make sure that northeastern festivals and tribal festivals, you have to learn them because that will help you in elimination in the other different areas. So the focus is going to be northeastern festivals and tribal festivals. For that purpose, what I've done is I put into the whole PPT these tables, which by state divide the festivals other than the major ones. And also I have tried to give you these what we call as basic devices for basic revision and quick revision. So you don't have to worry about where will you get this information. I've already done it. So you don't have to worry about this, but what your role is going to be, have to learn one or two or once or twice a week, at least one festival from the northeastern states and the tribal festivals, which basically are going to intersect only because most tribal festivals are in the northeastern sector. So that is one task I'm giving to you. My role is nothing here other than rather going into the other, which is the logic and purpose of festivals. So if you are clear about this basic set rule, before you start to say, do I need to learn every festival? No. You only learn areas which are going, which UPSC is actually concentrating on. There has been no explicit question on festivals. Only once one option, one subsection had one reference to one festival. So if we are clear about this ground rule, then I would rather want to talk about something else, which is the purpose of festivals and the importance of festival. What is the concept of festival? Because festivals, there can be a question, what is the purpose of festivals? That is a very important point. It's not just eating sweets and wasting money. It's rather actually something more important. Okay. Now, first things first is every religion has its own logic of festivals. Now, in Indian, what we call Hindu tradition or the tribal tradition or in Indian subcontinent generally, religions originating in India, the logic is that they follow agrarian cycles or agrarian seasons. Once you harvest the Rabi crop and once you harvest the Kharif crop, both periods are the most hotspots for festivals. So when you cut the Rabi crop, you have this April, May, June sector. That whole April, from March onwards, you will have all these harvest festivals, Baisakhi and all. And the second comes when you cut the Kharif crop, which is the monsoonal crop, in the November-December period. So you have that Diwali sector. So the most of the festivals in India are either agrarian or related to agriculture cycles or related to seasonality of agriculture, because we have been an agrarian country for thousands of years, maybe millions. The fact of the matter is that we follow agrarian cycles. One more thing is that when you have a standing crop, you can't leave the standing crop. It is only post harvest or pre sowing that people can move around. And that is why there are also marriage cycles in India which are interconnected with these cycles. But the fact of the matter is, in festivals, you need money. Money can only come after you harvest. So, whatever be the mythological or the logic behind it, generally, there is also this logical synchronization which happens. And most of our festivals also revolve around supernatural aspects. Either the sun, there's a moment, or there's an aspect of water, an aspect of fire. We tend to worship the five tattvas or the five elements of the earth. And this comes from that naturalistic undertone which is there in early Vedic societies itself and early Vedic religion itself. And most of our gods, in that sense, are also personification of different elements of nature. New Year and all is not, that is a separate logic altogether. I'm not talking about Christian or European festivals. Now comes Islam. Now, in the Islam's origin is in the Central Asian sector, the West Asia as it is called. Now, in a desert terrain where it was born, the sun is considered something which is harsh. The sun is heat, and the coolness of the night comes from the moon. And in the same, that is that for the same reason, most of the Islamic calendars follow the moon. The moon becomes important in Islam because within this structure which they are placed in, and I'm not going into the logic which the Quran is telling us, I'm going into the scientific logic of the geographical origin of that religion dictating how it is going to understand things. And the concept is that whilst we follow the sun quite a lot, sun, the lunar, the Surya calendar, lunar calendars are very, very important in Islam because the moon represents a certain sense of soothingness, a certain sense of calm, unlike the sun, which is harsh in the what we call as the day. And that is why you would have seen that most of the Islamic, what we call as festivals, look for the moon. They look for the 28 day cycle of the moon, the lunar phases, and they basically decide when that festival is going to be there. So be it the Mecca, Medina, be it the Saudi Arabian sector, be it Iran, Iraq, that whole sector is based on the what we call as very arid terrain. If we go to Christianity, the logic of the religion and the Gregorian calendar are together. So the first celebration is basically when the Gregorian calendar resets itself, which is 31st and 1st, 31st December coming and 1st January. So it's one, the resetting of the calendar itself. But thereafter, there are also certain moments. For example, Christmas, Good Friday, and the whole concept of Christmas Eve is related to the birth and death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So Good Friday, Christmas Eve, and Christmas itself is birth and the day before the birth of Christ and the resurrection of Christ. That Christ came back after dying for our sins. So if you look at the three major religions, Islam, Christianity, and Hinduism, Buddhists follow their own Buddhist calendar, and Vajrayanic Buddhism have their own important moments, but they are also related to sun and moon movements. The fact of the matter remains that in Sikhism, for example, Sikhism, one is a harvest festival, Vaisakhi, and the other one is related to the birth and death of the gurus. So, to be very clear, religion has its own logic. Every religion has its own logic, and logically we go ahead. But the point is, now the true meaning is not there, or the true purpose is not there in any religion. But that was the basic purpose at that point of time. First things becomes logic. Now comes the purpose. Now comes the purpose. What is the purpose of festivals? What is the purpose of festivals? Can anybody tell me? What is the purpose of festivals? Solidarity, happiness, revisit the moment, bring people together, celebration, brotherhood, get together, unity, devotion, God, social integration, tradition, employment, enjoyment, celebration of civilization, community, marketing, remembrance, future, sacrifice, tell people about their culture, closeness, tradition, sub-nationalism. I don't know nationalism kahan se aa gaya isme, but okay. How do you bring in nationalism into it? No, no. People coming together, excitement. Okay, see. Festivals have three purposes. Festivals have three purposes. First is called commemoration, or what you are calling celebration. Let's use the word celebration, or celebration. Now, see, for some of you, for most of India, festival is that moment when you go back home, or the community comes together, or the community comes together, wherein it's a fact of unity and it's an expression of culture. You express your culture. So you may not go home for 1 year, but in between that year, you will go there for one festival for sure, which is all of you coming together. That is the moment in which everybody celebrates and commemorates. Commemoration is important because if you don't commemorate, then you don't get connected with your community. And in that regard, brain drain, no brain drain. It's just that people move around, families move around. Some of you may be also preparing outside your hometown. So it's a way of connecting with people. It's one of connection. It's of commemoration. It's expressing your culture, and it's not just about expressing or celebrating. It's about celebrating culture, celebrating your identity and your culture. You may not think it is today like this, but this is the purpose. Some of you may not think of it like that. It's about building fraternity. It's building about solidarity. But why is the first thing more important? Because the second and the third thing becomes more important. Don't see, learn to not use big terms in useless places. Soft power, there's no connection like that. It's just that it's a celebration of culture. It's a second where it becomes important. See, when you become old, you never need to be told that, never need to be told that you have to do this or you have to do that in that puja. When you celebrate, you propagate. Not propagate to others, but within your own community. And the fact of the matter is, a good example of this could be simply, for example, 26 January. A lot of people today believe that 26 January and 15th August are a waste of money. All these commemorations should be stopped. But if you stop it, maybe you know that India got independence after fighting for 200 years. Maybe you know modern India, the UPSC forced you to do modern India. Some of your family members would not even know what it meant to get independence. But for the younger generation, it is a reminder that the freedom which they live in, the free air which they breathe, was not given. The fundamental rights which they have, the constitutional agitation type understanding which you have, this constitutionality was not given. So every year we remember that lakhs of Indians, more than that, crores of Indians, sacrificed, died, and suffered because of the British and our constitution, our freedom, and now partition will also be remembered. It came at a cost. Isn't it a reminder of our weakness symbol? Once we were slave to the British and more powerful than us. You see it as a weakness, I see it as a strength. If we can overcome 200 years of domination and become what we are today, then we can do anything. So it's about glass is half full or half empty. You see it as a moment of basically bow down your head. We remember it, or that intended purpose is to remember that our freedom fighters need to be remembered. So maybe it is a weakness. So learn from that weakness. Are you learning from that weakness? No. The reason why we were slave to some other person was disunity. So rather than taking the fact that disunity will destroy India, you are taking it as a weakness. Matter of perspective. But the fact of the matter is, if you can know certain things about American culture, you should know that your freedom is not given. And 99.99999% of all of us take our freedom for granted. Because you didn't do anything for independence. You have not sacrificed for independence. So you think that independence is given. So a value of thing becomes less when you are given to it, given that thing. So the fact that there are festivals which are, for example, about a certain moment or a certain religion, that moment is to propagate to the younger generations that this is what is our culture, this is what is your identity. So you may not like it or don't like it. We have commercialized it. That is capitalism. That is not the fault of festivals. Propagation is a very important concept. But the most important thing why festivals happen is preservation of culture. You conserve culture. There would be lakhs of festivals which are not done today because people either were killed or the British changed our culture itself. If you don't have festivals, you don't preserve culture. Festivals are not just one innocent device of bringing people together. No, no, no. Festivals are that moment, that glue which brings everybody together. They celebrate their culture, propagate it forward, and therefore preserve their identity. The problem is festival. When I say, the first thing which will come to your mind is Diwali or Holi. Those are big festivals. Think of tribal festivals. Think of harvest festivals. Think of festivals which are, for example, Eid is a very big one, but you have smaller important moments in Islam which are commemorated through other Eids also. The Muharram remembers a very important moment in their history. The fact is that everybody remembers. And in your life itself, the small festival which you do is your birthday. To be remembered that you were born 23 years ago. What have you become? What you are. It is a very important concept if you look at it from a larger perspective. May seem very trivial, may seem very different, but religion, culture, linguistic politics or linguistics, language, dialects, all these things are preserved because of festivals. So in the examination, if they ask you how can one preserve culture, then is to preserve festivals. And what is the purpose of festival? It is equally important to understand that it is not just randomly commemorating or celebrating. For you, it may be that, but your grandparents, for the community itself, it is a moment of propagation and preservation. So every festival which you see in this list is a moment in which somebody is trying to preserve their culture. And that is why tribal festivals become important, because these tribes are obscure already. So every festival which you have seen, that is why you see most of the festivals can be divided like this also. Harvest festivals, North India, harvest festivals, South India. We are forgetting our agrarian roots, but at the end of the day, festivals remain important. And I can guarantee to you, for a diasporic population, for people in America, these festivals are even more important. Because in America, in Fiji, in Mauritius, in different parts of the world, they remember who they are and they preserve their culture within them. So next time you think of a festival, next time when you go to the Christmas carnival, next time when you go to play Holi, next time when you do a festival, remember the importance of it. Because we tend to not care. But if you will stop caring, then who will take it forward? No one. And when no one takes it forward, that culture goes away. Culture lies with the people, not with nations. Lies with the people. Most of our monuments, most of our temples, most of our culture is rotting today, and most of the people who are doing it are dying because we as Indians have stopped caring. Because culture seems to be a burden to us. That who will go through. If I ask you something related, little bit more than what everybody knows out of basic movies, if I ask you one thing step further, you will not know anything about it. Too many festivals, Sachin, nobody is asking you to go in every festival. You do your own festival. So the simple point is your own culture should not be a burden to you. You like to take it forward, you don't like to take it forward, you are pessimistic, optimistic, that's your problem. For the purpose of the UPSC, this is what you write in a mains question. You'll be able to. You'll be able to. So tomorrow we start a new vivid journey. We'll now in a way do Bharat Darshan. We'll start with We'll start with dance, then we'll go to puppetry, then theater, music, handicrafts, thereafter doing martial arts, then 6 schools of philosophy. Now we are going to the smaller topics. 1 hour topics, we'll be able to cover 3 or 2 topics in one class itself. Literature also we will do, but those are heavy topics I do in the end. Once you start to become you start to lose hope in everything, then I do it. Okay. So everything will be covered. Don't worry. I'll bring Nitin Singhania in class. I'll show it to you. So with this, festival is completed. My job was to explain to you the main thing and to tell you what to focus on. Now it is your job to learn the festivals. Done? Okay. So I leave you today 8 minutes early. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. And perfect. Thank you.